Greetings dear viewers and welcome back to the review program. In this episode we will discuss the implementation of GSP Plus program in Uzbekistan and the food security in the country. Food security is a critical issue in developing nations such as Uzbekistan, where a significant portion of the population is engaged in the agriculture sector. The GSP Plus program, an initiative by the European Union, aims to facilitate sustainable development and good governance, including food safety and security. I will spend about 2 million soms on food. Fruits and vegetables are very high quality. We have enough food products in Uzbekistan, and in my opinion, we are ready to export products to the CIS countries.
I don't eat at home, only from the street. Food costs from 200 to 300,000 soms per day. I spend about 6 million a month on food. It was felt that prices have increased in everything.
I will spend 4 or 5 million soms on food. Basically, I noticed an increase in the prices of meat and fruits. The quality is good. When we start to export, there will be an increase in price. It is necessary to maintain a balance, 40% for export and 60% for domestic use.
I spent more than 1 million per month. Prices of potatoes and onions have increased. The quality is good there, but the prices are a bit expensive.
I am a student. I will spend about 1 million soms on food products. I noticed increased prices for meat, fruits and vegetables. The quality is good. If we start exporting, in my opinion, there will be problems with quality and quantity too. If I buy from shopping malls, I will spend 500,000 soms per week. I spend more than that in a month. The quality of the goods is not bad.
Uzbekistan, with its predominantly agrarian economy, is heavily dependent on its agriculture sector for food security. The country has made significant strides in ensuring food availability and stability, but challenges remain in the areas of food access and utilization. The availability and stability of food in Uzbekistan are generally ensured due to the country's agricultural potential. However, the country's food access and utilization are often hindered by the various socioeconomic factors, which include low household incomes, issues of the affordability, and dietary diversity in the nutrition knowledge. Uzbekistan faces several challenges in securing food for its population. These include climate change and water scarcity, post-harvest losses, and lack of diversification. Since April 10, 2021, Uzbekistan has been accepted to a beneficiary country under the Generalized Scheme of Preferences. The GSP Plus program, introduced by EU, offers additional trade incentives to developing countries that implement core international conventions on human and labor rights, environmental protection, and good governance. Uzbekistan's inclusion in the GSP Plus program could potentially enhance its food security by promoting sustainable agricultural practices and improving market access. Since the implementation of GSP Plus program, Uzbekistan has shown progress in the following areas: improved agricultural practices, enhanced market access, and strengthened governance. Despite the progress, there are challenges in fully leveraging the benefits of the GSP Plus program. Compliance with international conventions. Uzbekistan may face difficulties in fully complying with all the 27 international conventions required under GSP Plus. This could potentially limit benefits it can derive from the program. Limited diversification. While GSP Plus has helped increase agriculture exports, these are mainly concentrated in few commodities. There is a need for greater diversification to ensure long-term food security. While challenges exist, programs like GSP Plus offer significant potential to enhance food security in Uzbekistan. So we have invited a special guest to our studio today, the Ambassador of European Union to Uzbekistan, Ms. Adrian Charlotte. Good evening, Ms. Adrian. It's really nice to have you in our studio today.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the invitation.
I would like to start our discussion by talking about the Uzbek-EU relations. But before we dive into our discussion, I would like to watch a report with you and then discuss it furthermore. On September 8 to 9, representatives of the European Union countries and the heads of diplomatic missions from more than 10 countries will visit the Yangiabad city to get acquainted with the reclamation of former uranium mines. This visit was announced during the latest assembly of the Environmental Remediation Account for Central Asia meeting.
The Ministry of Ecology, Environmental Protection and Climate Change is the state agency responsible for organizing the project. A grant agreement was signed between the Ministry of Ecology and EBRD. The project has been granted 9 million euros to address specific objectives, including closing identified mine shafts, demolishing unused facilities for uranium ore processing, and reprocessing selected waste rock areas in Yangiabad and Chorkesar mines.
We can support, in fact, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan in cleaning up some of the uranium legacy, uranium tailings which are left. Why? Because we know that this is not good for the people. You need to, in fact, clean this up because this is very, in fact, detrimental to the health, but also to the villages which are around the uranium tailings, which are now they're closed.
The European Union is the primary contributor to the project, with additional support from Belgium, Lithuania, Norway, Spain, Switzerland and the United States. The reclamation project is expected to conclude by 2025.
Could you please briefly talk about your visit to Yangiabad?
With pleasure. In fact, yes, as mentioned in the report, we did go to see the Yangiabad sites. In fact, there are different sites that we visited. And the idea here was really to bring, it's not only European countries. In fact, we also went with the United States, with the UK, United Kingdom, but also with Switzerland, who also, in fact, contributors to the fund. This is a fund which is called the Environmental Remediation Account. It's initiated by the European Union back in 2000, I think it's back in 2015, 16, and the idea was really to support, in fact, Central Asia and in particular Fergana Valley to clean up, as I was mentioning, to clean up, in fact, some of the sites, the most difficult sites in Central Asia. And so there are 3 sites in Kyrgyzstan, 2 sites, in fact, in Uzbekistan, and 2 sites also in Tajikistan. The sites in Kyrgyzstan are more or less, 2 of them are finished, 1 is ongoing. And then for Uzbekistan, we visited Yangiabad. And here, in fact, what I was saying is that definitely, they have been, these sites have been, in fact, let's say, they have been closed for a number of years, but still what needed was, in fact, decontamination, to do more decontamination. And what we didn't hear, which I also remember having said, is that this is really important because this is about, in fact, the whole Fergana Valley. This is when these sites are sort of open and not taken care of, they could contaminate, but it's very small. But they're not. It's not good that they're sort of not cared about. They really need to be clean so that they're not contaminating anything, the water in particular, because this is a really. These sites are all next to rivers, and obviously the rivers flow, and we don't want this to happen. So this was a visit that we did, that we had thought of doing for a long time. In fact, I was myself in Mailisu some years ago to see how that was. And I think this was also, the idea was, in fact, also to have the opportunity to discuss. There are lots of environmental issues around the world. In fact, the uranium legacies are also some of the environmental problems that one can have in some of the countries. So this was a very good visit, and I definitely also want to thank the Ministry of Environment for having helped us also prepare together with the EBRD, and definitely also raising awareness is really important.
What are other priority areas and aspects of Uzbek-EU collaboration that you're working currently on?
So for now, in fact, we're in many sectors, and we're one of the important parts, of course, of our work is an institutional work. We're working a lot on the institutional framework that we have, the legal framework that we have with Uzbekistan. We signed, or we initialed, and are still waiting, what we call the Enhanced Partnership and Cooperation Agreement last July, a year ago. So this is an important part of our deepening our relationships. But we also have, in fact, cooperation, which is both in development cooperation, where we are working on mainly 3 sectors, but these are not the only ones. One is about governance and digital, supporting the government in digitalization, in making public services digitalized, in supporting, in fact, the whole transition also in digitalization. And of course, with the idea and of supporting the government's reforms, in particular also on governance, but also on anti-corruption. Another focus sector is the green transition, and I saw that you had in fact a report also on green transition, so I will not repeat what it is, but this is really about supporting also the reform of the government and going towards more and more green economy, and see how this can be done and how this can be incentivized. So this is a second part of what we're doing. And then the third part is that we're also in the agriculture sector. And there, in fact, this is a sector which we have traditionally been in, because in fact this was what we used to do before. And this is a sector that we then continue, but we link it also with the green transition, meaning that this is really supporting the government's transition towards a more eco-friendly and a smart agriculture, which is good for all, and also looking at different parts of the agriculture sector, which is also looking at nutrition, looking at food security, food safety, but also food nutrition. And then another thing we're always looking at is and featuring into our programs is really to make sure that it's also, that we're thinking about the impact on the environment. Climate change is here. We know it all over the world, and definitely we also, we know Central Asia is very, is already, hit. I'm sure in Europe we have the same problem. We've been hit very hard also this summer. So this needs to be taken into account. We need to change the way we think.
Yes, you just have mentioned that you're actively working on the agricultural sector. And in fact, this is the topic that I would like to focus on today. And we have prepared a report about the recent forum that Samarkand hosted on the food security. Let's watch the report and then discuss furthermore.
On the second day of the International Conference on Food, Samarkand hosted an agro-investment forum aimed at increasing the country's agricultural potential. Contracts worth $1,880 million were signed at the forum between the Ministry of Agriculture of Uzbekistan and a number of local and foreign companies. More details from my colleague Dilrabo Atajanova.
The results of this forum is reached agreements totaling $1,880 million, of which 24 projects including direct investments worth of $857 million and 14 projects from financial institutions worth of $707 million and other trade agreements totaling $390 million.
During the event, export and import indicators of Uzbekistan's food products were presented. At the same time, foreign investors were offered attractive business directions for investing in Uzbekistan's agriculture, in particular the most reliable segments such as cattle breeding, poultry farming, fodder, oil, dried fruits, vegetables and smart farming.
We are from Big Dutchman and we are investing and helping farmers in Uzbekistan already from 2009 on up to today, and we are doing housing equipment for layers, for broilers and for pigs. And we recently signed also with the Agriculture Ministry a letter of intent so that we will do together investments with our customers in Uzbekistan for around about 50 million euro for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years.
The investment forum primarily highlights local entrepreneurs in Uzbekistan's agribusiness sector. It showcases specific investment opportunities created under the 2020-2030 Agricultural Development Strategy in the form of distinct projects. I am from Sirdarya region. I own a cluster business. I came to the conference and now our company is signing agreements with a Chinese company. Now we will export our products to China.
The forum continued with B2B meetings of representatives of foreign and local businesses. As part of the program, the guests went on a tour of tourist locations of the city. The events in Samarkand ended here. Direct investments are surely important in the agriculture sector for Uzbekistan. What is the current status of European Union's direct investments to Uzbekistan in this industry?
I don't have the exact figures but what I can say is that, in fact, you also saw that you had a German investor who was interested. And this is exactly what we're working on as well. In fact, when we work with the Ministry of Agriculture, what we do, and this is specific also to the agriculture sector, is that we do several things. But one thing is that we work on a program which is in fact direct financing of the budget. Means that we transfer funding to the Treasury of Uzbekistan, which then in fact is really to support the reforms in the agriculture sector. The reason for this, is really that this is what we want. Yes, this is we want. In fact, the government, in fact, to implement the reforms, in particular in agriculture, but also, of course, in investments, meaning that agriculture is one thing, but in fact the investment climate also has to be good for foreign and European investors to come in. So these are two different things that we are doing. So we're supporting the Ministry of Agriculture with technical assistance. We're discussing what are the let's say the challenges that in fact both both Uzbek farmers face, but also maybe investors would face when they come in. How to develop an agriculture sector, which is because this is different from agriculture. Agro businesses. How this can become in fact better, so that investors come in and they stay. They don't not only come in, but and sign a, let's say, an intention of an agreement, but that they also really come in and stay and make the agreement and sign the agreement and start working. So this is important. Now, what we also do here is that we do in fact support also on the government in the business environment. We do support also. And how do we do this? We also support, for example, Uzbekistan in acceding to access to, in fact, WTO. So there are negotiations with, and which are long negotiations. And for this, we are also supporting, in fact, the government with a big program, which is a 5-year program on supporting to access. Now, what does it mean when we say support to access? It means that, in fact, we have technical assistance, which in fact accompanies, but also says what is it that needs to be changed in the legislation, so that it's compatible with the WTO, the World Trade Organization, so that they can access. And this is part of also the business environment, yes, and it's part of trying to have rules and regulations that are, in fact, give a level playing field, in fact, for foreign companies to come in and work, and in fact, and invest and stay. So this is important.
Some of the farmers say that there is a problem between the trade of fruits and vegetables of our traditional products, that the European standards require the packaging, and which cannot be met by the Uzbek farmers. What would you say on that? How can we improve the packaging system so that we will be able to transport our products to Europe?
Okay, let me maybe, because this is one of the things that we're doing even more, more, in fact, also for products. In fact, so one thing is investment in Uzbekistan, in the and then another thing is, of course, export to Europe, for example, the European market. And there, in fact, we have a mechanism, I would say, which is the GSP Plus, with the General Systems of Preferences, where EU is, in fact, has granted on the 10th of April 2021, granted Uzbekistan the possibility of exporting to Europe up to 7,000 products, tax-free. And this is, of course, a program where you have the possibility, so this is less taxes, no taxes, in fact, for this to be exported, but this needs to be used. Now, what you're saying is that, yes, in fact, there are different things. There are rules and regulations for entering the EU market. I didn't know that, in fact, there is, of course, there is something about packaging, and I didn't know that this is a problem. But what I know is that I also sometimes do see, in fact, alerts with some of the products that have been exported to Europe, which come back. And that means that there is a problem, and there could be a problem regarding, in fact, toxins which are in some of the products, which are not acceptable, in fact, for Europe. So it's true. We do have, in fact, this is also what Europe is known for. It's a big market. It's 450 consumers. It's a rich market, but we do have rules and for what we want to, in fact, what we want to consume. How, in fact, it has to be healthy. It has to be safe, And these are some of the things that sometimes countries are faced with. If there is, for example, I mean, in terms of packaging, I don't know exactly the problem here, but it might be that there is something in the plastic which is not acceptable.
How about the quality of the product? For example, farmers say that if they don't use chemicals, it will be natural, but it will not be sufficient with the European standards because it has to be good looking, and talking about the transport time, an example. So they are saying that the quality of the product decreases. How can we avoid this process and still
It's
keep
an
the natural
interesting point because it's true. In fact, I mean, there are lots of chemicals that we don't accept in Europe. Why? Because we know it's not good for the health. So that's, and then what you're saying is that, well, at the same time, it has to look good.
Yes.
And therefore we use we use chemicals. So obviously, I mean, this is a very technical issue, and it's and we do have standards, but we also make sure normally that we, in fact, I mean, laboratories need to say and need to know, in fact, and this is also, I would say, definitely something where we may need to work a little bit, I mean, more support, in fact, the Ministry of Investment and Trade in maybe explaining more, but it's also something that could be done by private entities. The explanation can be done, and normally it sounds like it's complicated, but I don't think so. In fact, everything is normally, I mean, we have websites where everything is very well explained, but it's true that you have to know, and that's about information. And if you don't have the information, you don't know. So this is maybe something where the asymmetry of information creates a problem. But this is something that can be worked on. And this is also something that we'd like to, and from our side, we have discussed also a lot with the Ministry of Investment and Trade, that we need to find a way of even more talking about it. I mean, we know that in fact, even GIZ, the Germans have been working on this, and we're happy if anybody can also support. We're happy to support from our side with information, but spreading it even more is also important.
What are the other opportunities that GSP Plus program provides for the agricultural sector of Uzbekistan?
Well, I mean, the scheme itself it makes it. I mean, it's free. It's tax free. I mean, this is a big one. I mean, this is the big opportunity for farmers or for agribusinesses to, in fact, to export to Europe. I don't have the figures yet, but what I know is that I think we made, I mean, there were some calculations made that last year, in fact, all in all, the increase in export to Europe, and this is not only for agriculture, but it allowed for savings, because you don't pay taxes, for the different, of around 11 million euro. Now this is a big amount. This is like, this is a grant. I mean, this is not a loan. This is funding which is, in fact, which is saved. So if this and we all, if this is something that we can continue to work on, then I think this is also a way, in fact, also of, let's say, saving money. One of the things where we see also is that the utilization rate of the GSP Plus is not 100%. For now, it's good. I mean, it's 90%. But what it means is that 10% of some of the goods which are exported to Europe are still paying taxes. Though, in fact, they could avoid paying taxes. But in this case, they're still paying taxes. So this is also something. I mean, this is about information. This is about sharing this, but also definitely making sure that the entrepreneurs, or the exporters, in fact, the agribusinesses are aware of it, and where, in fact, I think also we can use our development programs is that working with the Ministry of Agriculture, we have these AKIS centers, the Agriculture Knowledge and Information Centers, in some of the cities, where the idea really is, in fact, also to support, in fact, the farmers, and to support the agriculture, the agribusinesses, the entrepreneurs in agriculture, where we are connecting, let's say, research, connecting technical assistance, connecting, really a holistic view on the sector, and people can come there and get all the information. So this is maybe something that we need to work on in the future, so that information is really is really well spread, and that then we can maybe get up to 100% utilization rate.
I would like to conclude this interview with the future goals and key priority areas of the Uzbek and EU relations. What are the future plans?
We have, in fact, a very, I think, this, let's say, this autumn, I mean, this coming year from now, let's say this school year is going to be a very dense year for us. For the bilateral relation, and I'm looking very much forward. One of the first things is, of course, that we will continue to have our dialogues. We have an upcoming regional EU Central Asia dialogue, which will between the foreign ministers, which will happen very soon in October in Luxembourg. So that's one thing. But then, in fact, we also have a global gateway conference. This is about connectivity. This is about also, again, I mean, greening, but also, I mean, definitely looking at the corridors. What can we do, in fact, to support and to connect better? In fact, Central Asia, Uzbekistan to the European Union. And then we will also have, as this was decided in the last meeting of the Central Asian heads of state in Cholponata in Kyrgyzstan in July, we will have normally a summit, which means EU Central Asia summit in Uzbekistan. I cannot tell you when, I cannot tell you exactly where, but in Uzbekistan, where we will have the Central Asian heads of state and our two presidents, the president of the Commission, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, and together with the president of the Council, the European Council, Charles Michel, who has been here now a couple of times. So this is important again. So these are events, but of course we will continue to work on deepening our relations, continuing to work on possible new conferences, but definitely also working on the priorities that we have set for the last years. But I mean, green, as I said, green transition, agriculture, and governance, and digitalization. And then more investments, deepening our trade relations and increasing our trade relations.
Thank you so much for dedicating your time for this interview. It was a great pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much for all the very good and interesting questions. Thank you.
Thank you, dear viewers, for watching this program, and see you in the next episodes.